What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today I'm playing a ton of Nintendo 3DS. Now that could be shocking you if you've been subscribed for a bit, because in the past I've unfortunately built up a little bit of a reputation as the 3DS hater, the guy who's basically said that Nintendo needs to kill this in order for the Nintendo Switch to survive. Now a lot of that comes down to the fact that, quite frankly, I am in love with the Switch. So many big games on there just blew my mind, and when this won me over, it kind of made it where I wasn't really a fan of this anymore. But every time I talked bad about the 3DS, people came forward and said, DreamcastGuy, have an open mind. Sit down for a weekend and just play 3DS games and see what you think about it in 2018. Well, I decided to take your advice, and here I am, sort of doing a re-review and trying to answer the question of, was I dead wrong about the 3DS? So the way I decided to go about this is basically, I went to the store and just bought a bunch of very random stuff, because the giant catalog of 3DS games, you have a lot to select from. First and foremost, this is obviously why it's so famous. There's RPGs like Bravely Default, cool stuff like Zelda, and actually, my favorite Mario game of all time, Super Mario 3D Land, is all on here, along with stuff like freaking Luigi's Mansion, a cutesy horror game on a handheld. All of this is stupendous, but it wouldn't be good if they didn't look good. So here's an issue I've had in the past, which is that in general, it's pretty obvious the fact that the graphics on this thing are not super great. It puts out resolution at about 240p, which is far substandard HD graphics, whereas obviously the Nintendo Switch puts out stuff between 720 and 1080p. But I will say that going back with it and actually looking at it, you can't really notice. I mean, as you're seeing in this footage here, I decided to actually just film with my Super HD camera. I decided to just film the screen to see what it would look like to you with your human eyes. When I use direct feed capture, it looks a lot worse, but I feel like it's a little bit misleading. It's like when you look at trailers for 3DS games, they don't always look super crisp, but it's because when you're actually playing this thing, it's probably going to be a couple of feet from your face and you're just looking at it while you're just hanging out. Now this brings me nicely to my next point, and something that the 3DS actually does better than the Switch, or really almost any of their other systems, which is that this has a really in-depth virtual console. You're able to go through and buy a lot of great games of the past through the eShop. Now I've noticed that some Nintendo fans say, why is it so important to buy retro games? If you already own it, what's the big deal? Well, to me, it comes down to the fact that I am a big-time collector. I actually own hundreds and hundreds of games on the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced. All of these are stupendous, and I actually like the ability to really come forward and play them on new hardware. And most of them, I will give them credit, are actually pretty cheap. Like in this video, every time I open up the screen, I'm sure you noticed that I'm playing Pokemon Crystal. I love this game. It's actually my favorite Pokemon ever. Now, this is not just a digital ROM implanted on a handheld. In fact, what they've done is they made it where it can actually integrate into the clock of your system, so when you're playing Pokemon, part of the thing that it does is during the day or during the night, different monsters show up that you can capture and train. So they've made it where that actually works. The ROM can tell when time is passing, so it works just like it did back on the Game Boy Color, but now on a much bigger and much brighter screen. That alone is worth the $10 cost, and I ended up buying some other stuff like Castlevania Dracula X just because it's super rare. Now, for what it does right, there is something that's very annoying about the Virtual Console in the 3DS, which is that it's not super robust, and searching stuff in it is far too difficult. So just in my tinkering, I wanted to try and buy $20 or $30 in games. I wanted to try and find the stuff that really struck my eye, but also the games that I thought would give me a good example of what this 3DS can do. And here's the issue. Searching functions on this are terrible. Like, as you see here, just trying to gently tinker with these selections and options here, sometimes it makes it where the store glitches out and starts showing you 3 or 5 of the game over and over again. Or it makes it where you can't just search by particular categories. I can't just search Game Boy Advance games and see all those. There's also the issue of the fact that some games that certainly should be on here aren't. Like, it blows my mind that there is a trailer for Golden Sun, but I can't buy Golden Sun, which is one of my favorite handheld RPGs ever. It's pretty easy to forgive something like that though, because the catalog of games you could play on this is still tremendous. Even if you happen to buy most of the games you like on the eShop, you get some stuff physically like I did, there is still the extra option of the fact that this plays every single 2DS game, or original DS game I mean. So that means all the original Zeldas like Phantom Hourglass, all the amazing ports like freaking Final Fantasy 3 and 4 that are gorgeous and completely redone in 3D graphics on this one machine are on here. And they actually did something interesting, which is that the screen for the 3DS is much bigger than it was on the standard DS. And they've actually made it where there's a slight upscaling that is really, really clean, and there is extra processing power in this handheld as to previous ones, so the load times are dramatically shortened. Some stuff literally makes it where things are instantaneous. Now that may not seem like a big deal, but when you're playing something that used to have half-second or 1-second delays to everything you did because of hidden load times, it's so cool that those are gone. When I'm jumping into a battle, or I get into a random confrontation, or I'm going to another map, it's great that everything is just boom, boom, boom. This thing really creates a new style of fluid handheld play that I haven't really seen before, and that's very, very important to me because I'm actually somebody who deeply loves mobile gaming. Stuff like this, being able to play on the go. I've never mentioned this in a video, but I've been very, very poor my entire life, so I've never owned a car. I've always walked, ridden my bike, or ridden a bus to everywhere I've ever gone. So because of this, I've spent thousands of hours just going back and forth on public transit. Now, I don't actually consider this a bad thing. I think it's part of the reason that I really enjoy stuff like sitting down with my Game Boy, or just reading a book sometimes for hours and hours and hours, is because I think that there's something that really gets instilled in your brain, which is the importance of patience. And now I like the fact that this thing, it's really something that just fits in your pocket super, super easily for fun on the go. What I do now as an adult a lot of times is when I'm stressed about a deadline, or I'm trying to work on a project and I'm getting writer's block, I like to just go on real long walks and stop random places and just sit down and play. Some like in a random ditch or something where no one's going to notice me being a weirdo and playing Mario Kart. It is so fantastic for stuff like that, especially because the battery life on this thing is crazy. I tried to run this dead. I literally put it on maximum screen brightness. I turned on the online Wi-Fi functionality, everything I could to see just how long it lasted, and it still seems like this thing has about a 15-hour battery life at its shortest. If I'm only playing something like freaking Pokemon Crystal with minimum backlight and no online functionality turned on, this could probably last 30 or 40 hours with a single charge. All of this is so cool. The only other drawback I have about the new 3DS specifically is the fact that I wish that more games really tried to use this. Obviously, originally we had one thumbstick, but when they came out with the 3DS XL and this, which is specifically a 2DS XL, which is basically the same as a 3DS, it has a second thumbstick. Now, my hope was that we'd get tons and tons of games that managed to have much more of a twin stick personality to them. More games that would give us open world things and let us look around and kind of just take in the sights at our own behest. And here, this thing was very barely utilized. It's in things like Xenoblade Chronicles X and Majora's Mask, but for the most part, nothing really used this. And I found that disappointing just because I thought that this was really going to be something that opened new doors. Still, I have to say that as a whole, this is a very impressive device. I will say that basically, I go back on what I say, I don't wish that Nintendo would randomly kill it, But even now, I stick to my original statement, which is that I'm still not super happy that they're coming out with tons of new games in 2018 and 2019, simply because the Nintendo Switch is a better machine. It is a better hardware, it's cooler, and frankly, it has a lot more horsepower in it that opens up so many new doors of possibilities for gameplay mechanics. In my personal opinion, what I really want to see most is, instead of just burying the 3DS and throwing it into the background, maybe keep it around and keep it supported in a different way. Perhaps bring the best and brightest 3DS games to the Nintendo Switch in some decent ports. Give us Ocarina of Time or Fire Emblem Awakening on this new console instead of just keeping it over here at a discounted price. And then at the same time, maybe come out with a few more games for the 3DS and really expand on the Virtual Console. Make it work better, give us more retro games, and maybe this becomes the Virtual Console machine, and separately, there's cool new stuff on the Nintendo Switch. Both of these would be really, really cool, and I think it would keep all fans happy. No matter what they do, though, I'm very interested to see what happens next. I'm going to definitely be buying Luigi's Mansion on this thing, but after that, I'm probably completely done with the 3DS, except for just playing older stuff completely for fun. But what do you think about this? Are you somebody who still loves the 3DS and plays it to this day? Tell me what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I actually want to end this video with a very, very deep and special thank you to somebody I happen to run into, which is... So I was at a convention this weekend, and a gentleman came up to me and handed me this book and a game, and I've never gotten a gift from a subscriber before in my life. And inside of it, he had actually hidden a letter that basically talks about, and I won't reveal it, I'm sure he's watching this video, I won't reveal all of it here, but he basically says that he had quit gaming for a long time in college and basically came back after almost 20 years away, or after about 10 years away, basically to start gaming again, and it's because of my reviews, and a lot of people like Spawnwave and RGT. Our passion and love for gaming got him back into it. So, Zai, I wanted to thank you. This is honestly... This is the nicest thing any subscriber's ever done for me, man. And now I'm going to go read this book and keep playing my 3DS. You guys rock, and from the bottom of my heart, keep dreaming. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad, and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.